I've invited the founder of You Are the Power and former vice presidential nominee from 2020, Spike Cohen, to give us some more insight and perspective on this TikTok ban. Good morning, Spike.
Good morning. Thank you again for having me on.
I've been following you on X and hearing your thoughts on this. Can you chime in and share with our listeners what your immediate thoughts about this bill, this TikTok ban?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me cut to the chase. We have been failed by public officials and by most of corporate media who keep insisting that this is a TikTok ban. This is no such thing. What this does is it grants the president the authority to decide basically on a whim that any website or app is, quote unquote, controlled by a foreign adversary, even if the entire website is or app is owned by Americans, is based in America, and is American through and through. All they have to do, and I'm using wording from the bill, all the president has to do is say that the app or the entity is subject to the direction or control of a foreign adversary, which means all they have to do is say, for example, oh, Elon Musk is just taking marching orders from Putin, and that is enough for them to ban X. That is enough for them to ban Rumble. And really, the ban also, a part of it is actually no such thing either, because what they actually force them to do is to sell to a U.S. government-approved company, like, for example, Meta, which runs Facebook and Instagram, or Google, or one of the big tech, or Microsoft, or one of the big tech companies that the government likes. Now, especially after what we know from the Twitter files and the Facebook files about how the government works directly with social media companies to censor our opinions and to, basically remove us from the digital square if we say things that the government doesn't like. This makes it very obvious that what they're also doing, they want to add something that when the website or app doesn't comply with their attempts to censor us, that they can pull this on them and call them a foreign adversary.
I feel like it sounds like what our government is trying to do is kind of what China does in controlling in controlling free speech and the press. And then I'm reminded also when Elon Musk took over X, look what he uncovered. Government basically intrusion and involvement in social media to influence us, right? Am I wrong here?
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. That's literally what it is. And what can be frustrating is that the government's tactic here often works. The same way that the Patriot Act said that it was going to target Muslim terrorists after 9/11, and it's primarily used against us. And we were told that the authorization of use of military force without a declaration of war in 2001 was only going to be used to go after the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11, and it has instead been used for 23 years and going now to bomb any country they want to. This is what government does every time. Anytime they want some new sweeping power, they need buy-in from the right. And so they find a boogeyman of the right, either Muslims or trans people, or in this case, TikTok, and they say, we need this new power to fight against the threat of whatever this thing is. And even if you think that that thing or entity is a threat, giving government more power, they're literally just going to turn around and use it on you. Every single time, that's what they do.
So, folks, I'm speaking with Spike Cohen here, founder of You Are the Power. I was reading some information here, and I don't know how accurate this is, but is it true that like 60% of the company is owned by U.S. and international investors and not 100% China?
I believe that's the ratio, but more importantly, the servers are based in the U.S. and they're under no more observation of the Chinese government than literally any other app that they could be trying to spy on. The owner, the CEO of the company is a Singaporean. Yeah. He is not Chinese. He's not tied to the CCP or anything like that. But most importantly, taking out the window dressing, the actual server based on a previous deal is already based in the U.S. Could the Chinese government be spying on it? Yes, they almost certainly are. And they almost certainly are spying on what you're doing on Facebook or on YouTube or on X or on any of the websites. But so is the U.S. government.
I was going to say that. So is the U.S.
Yeah. And we know that. Yeah, and the U.S. government is doing that under the authority of the Patriot Act and other similar bills, which, again, they said was to go after the, Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the terrorists that have tried to attack us. But 99% of the time, they're just using it to snoop on literally every single thing that you and I do, even if we're not suspected of anything. Edward Snowden exposed that 10 years ago now. And the government's response to that is to say that they needed to, put him in prison for the rest of his life. He had to flee the country for that.
Yeah. So one thing in the line of work I do with public relations communications is also publishing content on social media for clients. And I know after the whole, what was it? The Analytica, what was the name of that?
Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge.
Yeah.
After all that, Facebook had to completely pivot, and it became harder. Now you see less like political ads, for instance, on social media or platforms like Meta. And do you think maybe that could be maybe a common ground solution versus a bill like this, like a flat out ban? Is there any common solutions you can propose if you were one of these legislators?
I think the common solution is applying the First Amendment. I think as soon as we start getting into the categories of saying, well, maybe if we suppress it this way or we de-emphasize things this way, if a private company like Meta or like Google or like X, if they choose to do that entirely on their own accord with no government involvement, then fine, they can do that. And we can decide which platforms we want to go on based on what they emphasize or de-emphasize talking about. If you're more political, you'll go on this site. If you just want to share, photos of your pets and what you've eaten on this site or whatever, that's fine. But what we saw is it wasn't that. It was the government stepping in and saying, nope, you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to say that. And what we've seen with Meta is probably the biggest example, especially on Facebook, of where they really de-emphasized politics. But it was kind of a rock and a hard place situation they were put in. If they did try to control what was being said politically, they were, accused of censoring Americans. And then when they didn't suppress or try to, influence what people were saying, they were accused of doing nothing to stop January 6th. And so it was sort of no matter what they did or didn't do, they were in trouble. So they decided basically to just completely de-emphasize politics. And so if you talk politically on Facebook, you're going to get almost no reach.
Yeah. Now, Spike, my last question for you. If this, this bill is now up for debate in the Senate, and there's talks that it may die, it may not go much further. But let's say if it does pass, because Biden has said he will definitely sign off on such a bill. Could this TikTok ban affect the elections?
Well, of course it will. I mean, it'll affect any kind of serious political discourse on the planet, because all of the major, social media apps are based in the U.S. But it will affect all political discourse, especially the elections. And that answers your original question as to why they moved so quickly to pass this, because they whipped the left, the Democrats understand exactly what this is. This is a way to control speech that is critical of them. The right got duped into, this is going to stop the Chinese, which is exactly how the government passes this stuff, is by duping the right with the left fully aware of what it actually is. And we need to stop taking the bait. I'm a libertarian, so I'm definitely on the right. We have to stop taking this bait. Every time government gives us a pretext and says, based on this pretext, we need more power. What you need to remember is they're just saying we need more power. And their track record. They're using that power right now primarily against you and against your values and about what you care about. Stop giving them more ammo.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Spike. Where can people find you on X?
They can any website, or for now anyway, any website or app you go to. If you look for Spike Cohen, you can find me. I'm pretty loud out there, but on X, I'm at Real Spike Cohen.
Thank you so much, Spike, for your comments on this. I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts on this. Am I